Okay, I want to make sure Ms. Sessions and Mr. Cameron can hear.
Yes, I can hear.
Thank you, Ms. Sessions. Alan?
Yeah, I can hear.
Thank you.
Okay, where you are rolling, you got it recording, I see, so
Yes.
ready to go.
All right, Mr. Chairman.
This is the meeting for the Mobile City Planning Commission for Thursday, April 1st, 2021. General procedures for this remote meeting are as follows. I will announce an application for items where no one from the public is attending via Zoom. Staff will give an overview, including any comments received from the public. If a member of the public will attend the meeting, staff will announce their attendance and admit them at this time. Once the parties have joined the meeting, if needed, I will state the commission's rules regarding the number of speakers as well as speaking time. Each application is limited to a maximum of 4 speakers in support and 4 people in opposition, limited to 5 minutes each. I will then announce the beginning of the public hearing. The applicant will present their case and up to 3 additional speakers, if applicable. For each speaker, at the end of their presentation, I will ask if there are any questions from any commission members. Once the commission concludes their questions of the speakers in support of an application, I will then call for interested parties to speak. At the end of each speaker's presentation, I will again ask if there are any questions from the commission. The applicant will be given an opportunity to rebut in accordance with commission rules, 2 minutes. After the rebuttal, I will declare the public hearing closed and the commission will go into deliberation session. After the commission has rendered a decision, the applicant and concerned parties will leave the meeting or will be sent back to the waiting room by staff where they can disconnect. I will then call the next agenda item. Commission members and staff, please remember to keep your microphone on mute unless you are speaking to the meeting attendees. Roll call, myself here, Ms. Latham. Ms. Jennifer Denson. Mr. Cart Blackwell.
Here.
Ms. Shirley Sessions.
Here.
Mr. Alan Cameron.
Here.
Mr. Taylor Atchison.
Here.
Mr. Matt Anderson. Mr. Nick Omberger. Ms. Bess Rich.
Here.
Mr. Don Henry.
Here.
Mr. Jay Stubbs.
Hello.
We have a quorum. Next, we have adoption of the agenda that was sent out to us. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor of adoption of the agenda?
Aye.
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 Be opposed? The agenda is adopted. We'll begin with item number 1, a holdover, 3905 Dawkins Street, 2226 South McGregor Avenue. It's recommended to be held over again till April 15th session.
Mr. Chairman, we do not need to take any action on that because while the staff recommended the holdover, the applicant was agreeable to that, and that is documented in the report. There is no one here to represent the application, nor is anyone here in opposition. They will all be in attendance at the April 15th meeting.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to item number 2, new planning approval applications, 508 and 518 Dawkins Street. The planning approval, staff recommends that this application be held over to the May 6th meeting with revisions due by April 16th for addressing some outstanding issues. Is that applicant present?
I've just admitted Steve Stone into the meeting. Mr.
Yes.
Stone, you hear?
Yeah.
Hold on, sir. Mr. Chairman, I have also admitted Mr. Joseph Black into the meeting. He is here to voice his concerns. Mr. Black, can you hear us?
Yes, ma'am, I can. Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, back to you.
Okay, this current application to the owner is being recommended for a holdover until May 6th, with revisions by April 16th. Do you have any comments or further explanation, or are you in agreement or disagreement with the holdovers to the owner? The owner's rep?
This is Steve Stone. I'm the architect representing Mr. Lamond. We are in agreement with the recommendation to hold over and work with staff to provide the additional information.
Okay, thank you. This item is agreeable to be held over as of now to the May 6th meeting. So the person here to speak on behalf or against will get an opportunity at that time to speak as well. However, you do have a right to say anything about this now if you so choose.
Depending on my schedule and availability, I'm not exactly sure what that's going to be on May 6th. So if it's okay, I'll go ahead and speak now.
That's fine.
Okay. Well, first and foremost, thank you very much to the members of the Planning Commission for allowing me a chance to speak today on this subject. I'm just making sure, can everybody hear me okay?
Okay.
Okay. My name is Joseph Black, and I've lived and owned property in the downtown area since July of 2008. My wife and I lived for 10 years at the Mattress Factory Lofts right there at Dolphin and Hamilton Street. We thoroughly enjoyed our time there. We now reside one block to the west up Dolphin Street at the intersection of Dolphin Street and Lawrence Street, 501 Dolphin Street. Our building consists of 5 townhomes, with 4 being owner-occupied main residences, and the 5th being the office for Hummingbird Marketing and Ideas. We are the textbook definition of live and work and play in downtown. We support practically every restaurant, bar, entertainment venue, shop, grocery store in the downtown area for a period of 5 years. Additionally, I was an owner of the CrossFit gym, Mobtown CrossFit, located at Franklin Street. So I say all this to establish that we are heavily vested in downtown Mobile, and we're so happy to see the growth and responsible planning that the city has shown in the nearly 13 years that we have lived here. I currently serve as the treasurer for our Board of Homeowners Association for our townhome building. I speak for the residents, my wife, and myself when I say that we are opposed to the request by Mr. Lamond to increase the occupancy load at 508 and 518 Dolphin Street. This property is directly across Dolphin Street from our homes. The first and foremost concern is over quality of life. The increased occupancy load will result in much more street noise and greatly impact our quality of life, as well as the 4 townhomes at the intersection of Cedar Street and Dolphin Street. Another quality of life concern is accessibility. Our only access point to our gated parking lot is directly on Dolphin Street. If the increased occupancy load is granted, this will result in much more street traffic right at our only entrance exit to our homes. Another area of concern is the geographic location of this proposed site. This area, to the best of my knowledge at least, is not within the entertainment district. The city has completed a great amount of research, time, and effort to establish these boundaries. Granting this request would be in direct opposition to what the city has been successfully building since I have lived downtown, a vibrant downtown Mobile. In any vibrant city, there is a cohesive blend of businesses and residents. This would send a strong message to all current and potential future residents of the downtown area. That message would be that there is no security with the zoning of where you buy your home downtown. In conclusion, myself as well as the residents near this proposed location are opposed to this request to increase the occupancy load at 508 and 518 Dolphin Street. Our opposition is because there would be significant impacts to our quality of life and therefore our property values, our accessibility, safety issues, and the fact that this area is not in the entertainment district. Once again, I know you all are very busy and have many issues to deal with daily. Thank you to the Planning Commission again for allowing me a chance to speak and present my concerns as a resident of downtown Mobile.
Thank you for your comments. Are there any questions of him or comments from commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, I just need to read into the record. Mr. Black did submit comments which were provided to the commission outlining his concern. We also provided comments to the commission where Dr. C. Luke Adams sent an email with his concerns, as well as uploaded comments to the Planning Commission's web portal.
Okay. Duly noted. Any questions or concerns or comments from commissioners at this time? Okay, thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
the commission does need to vote on the holdover.
Okay. This item has been recommended by staff for holdover to the May 6th meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded that this item be held over to the May 6th meeting with revisions due by April 16th. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Items held over till May 6th meeting. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Group applications. Item number 3, 2621 Ralston Road, PUD and zoning for St. John's Deliverance Temple, both recommended for holdover to the May 6th meeting with revisions due by April 16th. Is the applicant been let
Yes.
in?
Yes, sir. I had admitted Jerry Bird into the meeting.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm online, Margaret. We know it's recommended for holdover. We're okay with that. They cannot locate the letter that they had, and they're going back in to a request through the archdiocese for another letter and go in that process. And the timing was not good for a quick response since this is a week before Easter. And but now we also have, I missed, it's recommended for holdover to what date? The rezoning?
May the 6th.
May 6th?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that will coordinate with the Board of Adjustment application that's in with this also, isn't it?
That's correct.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you, Mark. Yeah. We don't have a problem with it. We understand, and we'll take care of it by that point, hopefully.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Is there anybody else on this issue, Margaret?
No, sir.
Okay. This is recommended for held over to May 6th, 2021 meeting. I'll make the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Properly moved and second that item be held over till May 16th. Are we ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passed. Item is held over to the May 6th meeting with revisions due by April 16th. Thank you. Item number 4, 2258 and 2262 Hillcrest Road. It's a PUD that's recommended for approval, and planning approval, both of which are recommended for approval. Is the applicant present?
Yes, it's Jerry Bird again.
Yes, sir. And Mr. Chairman, if I may, Mr. Byrd is the only one in attendance at the meeting regarding this application. However, I do need to draw to the attention of the commission the email that was forwarded to you from Mr. Kinney and Ms. Francie Lewis in opposition.
Okay,
Can I address that, please?
you can.
Okay. Yes, I talked to the owner, and it may have been a one-time circumstance. Now, he told me that they had to do some repairs to the metal siding on one or two buildings. So it had been dented up too bad. They had sheet metal. That may have been the incident. They may have been cutting that siding when the neighbor heard them like cutting sheet metal. This particular building that's proposed is a climate controlled building, and the only door that possibly will be on the north side adjoining the residential would be an emergency door that would only open to the outside. The entrance to the building where you bring the items into the storage was on the east side, which is looking at the back of the smaller units that were existing on the site. Well, that's not so. It looks to the south. I'm sorry. No, I had the other one in my mind, but the entrance is on the south side. The back is just basically a metal wall. The manager of the mini warehouse does ride around golf cart, ride through the complex approximately every hour just to check on things. It is not a security check, but the rules are that you can't operate a business out of your mini warehouse stalled as far as a shop being there. You store your equipment, you can store your supplies and pick them up and go if that's the type of use that you want for the mini warehouse. But he is aware of the letter. I sent it to him, and he would address it if he knew more about who caused it. But the building repair possibly is the metal cutting that they heard.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from commissioners?
I'd like to get some questions answered if I may.
Okay, Ms. Richard.
Thank you very much. Mr. Byrd, the proposed expansion of the business, is there any reason why it couldn't go on the other side where it abuts commercial as opposed to it being up against the residential side?
I don't know the answer to that. They have an engineer company working on the design, and they sent it to me, sent the plan to me, and that's where it was on the plan, and I was applying for this approval. But I don't know. I know there's a cell tower on the south side shown
Further
on,
back, I believe it's further back.
no, it's right there at the end of those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 buildings. It's right at the southwest corner of those 6. It showed on that last plan. Yeah,
Is there any more site information that could be put up? Any other pages? There's the tower. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So it could come behind the tower. I mean, the tower is, I just, when you look at this and you see it's going to have to be all clear cut again, additional clear cutting. And it's, so anyway, moving it further away from the R1 to give more buffer, that would be very, very helpful.
like I say, I don't know if there is terrain problems that would prohibit locating on that side. I don't know why that location was picked.
Okay, and around the building is, and this is for the staff, and I think it's in the plans, is a drive, correct? So that the fire department can get all around it. Is that what we're looking at?
Yes. I know you said it was for the staff, but that is correct. There is an asphalt drive that goes around the building.
So they'll probably need to clear cut all the way to what is the buffer fence that's being recommended. There can't be any plantings back there. It can't. So that's why moving the building would be very helpful to give more of the buffer, more space between the building it's up against the residential side.
Well, of course, it would eliminate the trees, but it is this proposal here with the climate control, any noise of people moving in or the unit doors will all be contained within the building.
Where's the entrance? Where do people enter?
Yeah,
How many
right there.
units are inside of that?
Ma'am?
How many units are inside this
I don't
inside
know.
unit?
I don't know.
Okay, if how much parking is required for this facility?
Well, they don't come and park except on a rare occasion. If you wanted to stop long enough to go into your unit, either take a piece of furniture or something or go in and pick it up and then you're gone. It's not long time parking like you would have at an office.
But people are coming and going, and we don't know the number of units, and it's very close. There's only one entry point, correct?
They all come out and in. That is the planned entrance and exit. The other doors that are possibly going to be there will be required for fire code on emergency exits only. And that
I guess I'll ask the staff, has the staff seen drawings for the building itself for the number of units inside and where people will come in and out?
Detailed plans such as that are for construction and typically follow after the public hearing approvals are in place.
So the only thing is the buffer, correct?
In terms of the minimum requirements of the zoning ordinance, the buffer is a minimum of a 6-foot privacy fence. Of course, they could also, it is their option, they could also do the screen planting. However, with the driveway up to the property line, the 6-foot privacy fence would be the minimum standard.
Because the residents were asking for, and I actually heard from the HOA president as well, not just from, I received the letter like everybody got, but took a phone call from the neighborhood president. And he said they backed those residents and wanted to see whether the buffer could get better. And so that's why I'm saying, can the building be moved, closer to the already commercial footprint that is also abutting, and then some kind of brick or cinder block as opposed to just the fencing to help block noise. And I guess it would only be in front of this new development, can't go backwards in time, I don't believe. I don't know how that works. Are we looking at the whole thing as a planned unit development or just the new site, the new building? How does that work?
The additional building is before the commission today, but the overall site is the PUD.
Okay. And we don't know the number of inside units And I really don't know how the business works. So if anyone on this planning commission is more familiar with inside units, do people come and park their cars and then walk with their, or
Typically-
dolly their, whatever
Yeah.
can fit? How big are these units inside? Do you
That is-
know?
That is
Well,
typical,
It varies.
yes.
I'm
that is-
sorry.
That is typically not submitted in terms of the detailed plans of how many units are in there. The parking is typically based just on the office space because a mini storage facility, you don't have all of the tenants coming to unload at the same time. You could have 100 units available for rent in here, but you may only have one person there at a time to go into their unit. So the parking is just typically informal by the building so they can put their things in and take them out.
And usually people park in front of their particular garage door unit in those, in the older section. You drive up to them, right?
Yes,
Okay, but this is one big collective one. We don't know how much, we don't know it. What is the square footage of the building?
To, I don't have the size right here in front of me. Secretary's gone to pick up the site plan that we have. That's,
It would really be nice to have more information before a decision is made. If I backed up to it, that's what I'd be thinking.
it's, the building is 125 by 200.
What
125
is that?
north and south, 200 feet east and west.
Ooh, okay. And do they have like, how many stories is this?
This would be one story.
One story, okay.
The picture that came in with, from the neighbor, looking at out their backyard,
Yes,
they, all you see is the gable of the roof that they're looking at. It'd be like looking at a house next door over their fence. And, with the,
yeah, well,
any other noise would be the same as they can't limit what their next door neighbor is going to do.
well, except this is gonna have cars around. It's a little different. It's a commercial footprint.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know they know this, so they understand that it will be developed, but how do you mitigate it the best you can? And just having a drive and clear cut and a 6-foot privacy fence probably is not enough if the building can't be shifted to get a better, natural buffer. And we don't know how many units it has.
Yeah,
So
units is 120 units inside, and like I say, some of those could be 10 by 10s or 10 by 20s.
that could regenerate a pretty lot of foot traffic on weekends. If people store their lawn equipment or whatever. I mean,
Well, I don't think you'd store your lawn equipment inside a climate control. They would probably be in one of the older units where they
Mhm.
offload, if they want to do that, they offload it off their trailer and take it right in. But
yes.
climate control, you're probably talking excess furniture that you're not ready to get rid of yet. Yeah, any
Okay.
kind of old paperwork from a business or document storage.
Yeah, I'm wondering if any other planning commissioner has a better understanding of the use of that building.
Ms. Rich, I've had experience with constructing these type of properties before, and you typically just have, on this size building, you're probably gonna have, I would guess, 2 loading docks, 2 doors going in and out. I mean, this may only have one, it's hard to tell by the plans, but you would normally just have one door that you would pull up to and load and unload, and then you would leave. There's really there's no parking there that you would need. Now, it does become a problem if you have 4 or 5 or 6 people coming in at the same time to load or unload, but that's just something that has to be worked out. as far as the neighbor's concerned, on the buffer on that, is it, Jerry, is that the north side of, oh, yeah, right there, is that the north
Yes.
side? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's, where's my magnifying glass? It's 25 feet away from that property line. The building is 25 feet away from that property line.
how big's the road?
Ma'am,
How big's the road have to be?
24.
Okay, so that's
Actually-
gonna be right up against, there's
Yeah, I
only
guess-
gonna be the fence separating.
Well, there's 2 feet. I spoke wrong. It's 26 feet to the property line. In road 24.
The main
And will
issue,
there be entry points on the side that abuts the residential?
No, ma'am, just an
Okay.
emergency exit if it's required. And like I say, emergency exit amounts to probably a 3 foot by 6'8" door that only opens out for emergencies.
On the north side, so that could be part of the planning approval. Because there are no storage on the older units. They're on the sides that abut, correct?
That's right.
Are-
They have the roll-up doors on the sides of them. And the end that is up against the residential is, I think, a solid wall. I'm not positive on that. That would be the normal case, I think.
I see. Is there a drive back there too?
Yes, ma'am.
the main issue is the buffer. I mean, we could actually,
Yeah.
as far as why they're placing the building where they're placing as opposed to on the opposite side, I mean, I would imagine that there's probably some kind of logistical reason for that. I mean, we could try to find that out from the applicant, but you know, that would be one solution, would be to flip the building around and put it on the opposite side. But I'm sure there's some reason they're putting it where they're putting it. The buffer would be a good solution to try to, you know, increase the buffer between the new building and the residential area. But I mean, we don't have it. We're not talking about the whole site. We're talking about a buffer that's already there. So I don't see how we could really require them to just do that particular section when the whole other line is existing.
No, maybe because that has 110. I don't even know how many units are in those other ones. You know, this is getting 110. So are they actually doubling the site? I don't know. Do we know how many units are on the established portion?
No, I do not.
Be a good question to know.
Jerry, could you also just one more time talk about the buffer that's currently there, that's going to be there once this proposed building goes up?
Well, of course, the building is setting 26 feet from property line, and the asphalt 24 feet is requirement for fire department. You know, the one good thing, if there's no trees over there, the neighbors don't have to worry about them falling over onto their house or into their backyard. But that particular neighbor, I checked, they are actually right where the new building is beginning and going down the hill. They're butting right in there. They put up an 8-foot privacy fence. Next door neighbor looks like it had 6 foot. And there is a requirement for a 6-foot wood privacy fence to be along that property line in where this development adjoins the residential. So they would be buffered as other businesses are buffered. This is just in a different scenario. You could have an office building that had the same amount of square footage as this and have parking lot with people coming and going. It might be 50 car spaces out there with people coming and going all during the day, slamming the doors. And it would be a 6-foot privacy fence. And a office building would have windows out on that side. So this would be a better scenario than having an office next door to them.
And also just this type of structure, you're gonna have everything, all your activity is gonna be confined inside the building as opposed to on the older storage units, you've got your roll-up garage doors that are outside. So everything, all the activity, loading, unloading, all that is on the outside of those. It'll all be contained to a large degree on the inside of this building.
That's correct. And like I say, with the door, the entrance exit door, the normal exit door on the south side away from the residential.
So that whole north wall is, do you know if there's going to be any kind of access on that backside?
Nothing planned. Like I said, it would be an emergency door, emergency exit required by the fire department.
Yeah, that adds even more sort of a type of buffer because there's no access going in and out there.
That's right. There's nothing there to create noise with it, and that door would only be opening out. I don't know how you fix the lock, but anyway, it'd be locked. Couldn't come in that door. You'd have to go out it. Probably an alarm would sound if you did go out that door because it'd be a fire or whatever type of emergency.
Yeah, if we were talking about this whole development being brand new, I would say let's try to find a way to increase the buffer along that fence line, whether it be a taller fence or more vegetation or whatever. But we're only talking about a small section of it, so I would have a hard time trying to figure out how to require it just for that little section and not require it for the whole area.
Yeah, those small, the long narrow buildings, they were all existing prior to 2 years ago when there was a daycare up on the front. And of course, they removed the daycare and built the building up there. It's climate controlled. And yes, I mean, the buffer there, the location of them was all approved. And I don't know, that might have been there before the subdivision came in. I don't know that. But
the zoning was there. The zoning was there. On the new building that took away the preschool that was there, is that a storage or just strictly the office for the building? Is that also indoor storage?
Yes, it's indoor storage also.
How many units are in there?
I don't know.
It was 12,500 square feet approved by the commission in 2018.
Okay, so do we know how many units are in that one?
No.
Say that was 12,500 and this is 25,000. So probably half the number that, no, there's an office up there also. That's where the manager is. So be a little bit less than half of what's proposed in this one, I presume.
And that has the 6 parking spaces, did you say, in front of the office building per se?
Yes, there's spaces up there if you wanted to go talk to the manager, rent a space, a unit, and then you could pull down to wherever that unit is and unload your items.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments from commissioners? Hearing none, is there a motion on this application?
Mr. Chairman, are we taking both of these together or are we going to do them separately?
I'll take them separately. I'll take part A, the PUD. Is there a motion for it?
On the PUD, I move to approve based on staff recommendations, findings of facts, C and F.
Second.
Properly moved in second. Any discussion?
Yes. Can we talk about getting the fence higher? Either if we have to do the entire already area, or if the commission thinks it should only be this new one, can it be 8 feet to meet what the neighbor has done?
Yeah, hey, Mr. Chairman, I think it'd be a great idea for us to move to an 8-foot. That with a 26-foot setback, with that drive back there, I think that kind of gets us to a nice, happy medium. There's not going to be a tremendous amount of noise behind the building, and I understand that councilors probably you know, I mean, she's just looking out for her constituents there. So I think everything will move along a lot more quickly and everybody will be a lot happier if we have an 8-foot fence there.
So we're talking about just that section directly behind the new building?
Yeah, I mean, the other stuff's existing, so it seems a little capricious to go to the rest of it, but the new portion, you know, it's gonna be a larger structure, so an 8-foot fence seems reasonable to me.
Well, I'm totally okay with amending my motion for that, but we just need to know what linear footage is gonna be required. So I was under the impression there was already a fence there.
No, it's all wooded now.
Okay.
So I think,
Do we need to include that there be no entry point on the north side of the building except for, you know, public safety, that's not an access point?
I would support that.
Well, I amend my motion for the PUD to include the 8-foot tall privacy fence in the new section directly behind the new proposed building, and that there be no egress or ingress access on that north side of the building.
Second.
What about the sides too? Just one entry point so that it's away from the residents.
Our issues with that, I would think.
Yeah.
I would second the amendment as it stands.
Can I mention this?
Sure.
I think he said the no ingress, egress. Now, egress being the exit, a normal egress, not an emergency exit may have to go up it.
You could just say door for emergency use only or something like
Correct.
that.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah.
Don, would that work in your motion?
If that's a fire code requirement, that's totally fine. We're just trying to prevent anybody from having a lot of activity on that back side of the building.
I understand.
But you mentioned that there's only one entry point, and I'm looking at a drawing that looks like an overhang or something. I don't know what that is, that little square. You see what I'm talking about? I'm pointing it like you can see it. but I know you can't.
It is a canopy that you could pull under on rainy day.
Right. So there's no entry points on any other wall side, correct?
That's right. That's right.
So I think we need to stress that.
Okay.
And make that part of the plan unit development.
Okay.
That's what I just did with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was just the rear, so. Okay.
Probably moved and seconded. No further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passes.
And
item
that's an 8-foot fence in the new section, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I just want to make sure I got it clear. Thank you.
Item B, planning approval. Is there a finding of fact in the motion?
Move to approve with findings of facts 1, 2, and 3.
Second.
Properly moved and second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passed. Thank you. We move now to
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
the next is other business. I would ask that you take this in reverse order to consider the alteration of the note on the God's Kingdom Church Ministries subdivision. If the commission recalls, this was up for planning approval at the December 17th meeting. And as part of the planning and PUD approval, there was emergency access proposed to Brownlee Street. It's for emergencies only. That conflicted with a recorded note on the subdivision plat. So the plat is being re-recorded with the note being changed to allow this emergency access to Brownlee Street. And I simply need the commission's approval. The number of lots are not changing, none of the other conditions, but due to the planning approval and PUD, that note regarding access to Brownlee Street needs to be altered.
How does that need to be worded, Margaret?
I beg your pardon?
How does that need to be worded exactly?
Basically to approve the existing, to approve the note on the subdivision plat to read access to Brownlee Street is permitted for emergency access only.
You need a motion for that?
Yes, sir, please.
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved in second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes. Thank you. We'll now move to our other business consideration of UDC version 5 with proposed revisions from March 8th and 29th business meeting. We need an adoption of recommendation to the city council. Is there anybody who would be admitted for this?
Yes, sir. I'm admitting Linda St. John into the meeting. I'm admitting Linda St. John. Okay, Linda, you need to kill your live stream, please.
What? Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, you are now in the meeting. We'll begin the timer now.
Okay, am I here?
Yes.
Okay, Linda St. John, 320 Avalon Street. I've been president of the Village of Spring Hill for 15 years. I just wanted to have a brief statement, some history of the Village of Spring Hill. Village of Spring Hill Master Plan and Overlay Zoning was developed 15 years ago after an all-inclusive charrette process where hundreds of citizens, the city administration, and key stakeholders participated. After the completion of the plan, there were many more meetings with developers and commercial property owners that we felt were resulting in too many compromises and changes jeopardizing the integrity of our plan. After several of these meetings, it was decided by our organization, at the recommendation of our planners, Dover Cohen Partners, that we would submit the ordinances to the city as optional. The idea was that this grace period would be an opportunity for the Village of Spring Hill to work with the developmental community on the positive aspects of development under the Village of Spring Hill Master Plan, making everyone more comfortable with the ordinances eventually becoming mandatory. With this strategy in mind, our ordinances were submitted to the Planning Commission and the City Council as optional and were unanimously approved by both. In the last 15 years, we have successfully worked with numerous developers and commercial property owners and residents to build out the vision outlined in our master plan. The list includes Philip Burton with Burton Property Group, Richard Inge, Engine Associates, Jeff Quinnelly, McGregor Springs LLC, Jeff and Todd LaCour, C'est La Vie Holdings, Todd Martin, Southland Capital Realty Group, John Vallis, Vallis Realty Group, Dan Elkin, Elkin and Associates, the Mitchell Company, Regions Bank, Spring Hill College, Deborah's Boutique, Alabama Power Company, CVS Corporation, Service First Bank, Spring Hill Baptist Church, The Holiday Incorporated, Carpe Diem Coffee and Tea Company, and AT&T. At almost all of these meetings, there was a common concern that since our ordinances were optional and not mandatory, any investment they made in development or property improvements would be diminished if other property owners did not comply. This uncertainty has led to 15 years of stalled commercial development in Spring Hill. But in the meantime, the Village of Spring Hill continued to initiate aesthetic improvements by partnering with many existing commercial property owners, the Mobile Public Library, the Mobile Museum of Art, and the City of Mobile, specifically on road and infrastructure intersection projects, and just recently on the new Spring Hill Fire Station. We've successfully raised millions of dollars for sidewalk infrastructure for the village constructed on city right-of-way. During construction, we have worked with countless property owners to resolve their individual property concerns, moving each of our 16 sidewalk projects forward, building a complete pedestrian sidewalk network in the village. We have raised millions of dollars through state and local grants and successfully channeled additional millions in available county and city funds into specific projects for the village. We have tapped into just about every available source of private investment within the residential and business community surrounding Spring Hill. But despite all this success, there is no doubt after 15 years that the potential for commercial development in the village of Spring Hill will never fully be realized until our ordinances are made mandatory as it was intended 15 years ago. We are respectfully asking the Planning Commission to pass the Village of Spring Hill overlay zoning ordinances as submitted by the City of Mobile as mandatory with no additional changes. Thank you for your consideration.
Carlos is talking. Carlos, you're muted.
Sorry, I said, thank you for your comments. Any comments or questions from commissioners? And thank you. Anyone else?
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'm admitting the next speaker, who is Casey Pipes. Mr. Pipes, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Sorry about that. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
My name is Casey Pipes, 2255 Ashton Place. I was retained early on by the Mobile Area Association of Realtors to kind of bird dog this overall project. And on behalf of the leadership of the Mobile Area Association of Realtors, I want to publicly thank the city and the city staff and each of you on the Planning Commission for y'all's work on this and for considering our comments and incorporating them into this current draft of the UDC. We will continue to monitor it as it moves through the paces and stand willing to help in any way we can, but won't take up any more of your time. Just thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Who's next, Margaret?
I'm admitting Richard Inge into the meeting. It shows him as still connecting to audio.
All right.
Mr. Inge, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. You may begin addressing the commission.
Thank you very much. We own 5 properties in the village of Spring Hill, 3607 Old Shell Road, where McGee's is located, the Bebo's across the street, 3614. And today we just actually purchased 501 Bishop, the 2-story office building next, adjacent and west to Bebo's gas station, which, by the way, they just put the sidewalks in, which was great, Linda. Good work on that. And we also have Legacy Village Shopping Center in the Gasco at Old Shell and McGregor. And I just wanted to say that we are in full support of the Village of Spring Hill. They've done an excellent job. I've worked with hand in hand with Linda for years. And I don't know if y'all have the rendering that I sent Linda for the Gasco project, the Old Shell and McGregor. But we've done a rendering there, which we've been working on for a possible redevelopment. It's in the early stages. We had some tenants prior to the COVID, but that actual development, we had worked with Linda with all of the Village of Spring Hill requirements, which I thought were very helpful. And if that deal goes through, I think it would be great for all of Spring Hill. But bottom line is we are in full support of this being if this going through for everybody, because we don't want our neighbors to not be in compliance. But we're all in. You have our full support. And any questions for me, hit me with them.
Questions, comments from commissioners? Hearing none, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I've admitted Philip Burton into the meeting. Philip, can you hear us?
I can.
Okay, we can hear you.
This Zoom is sometimes very challenging. So I was watching it live on YouTube, and I guess it's a little bit delayed. So I don't know if y'all can hear me, but I can't hear anyone.
We hear you, sir. You have the floor. Hello, Philip, you have the floor. Can you hear us?
I can't hear anyone speak to me, so hopefully this comes over, but I've got some prepared comments, but in general, Philip Burton, 30 Hillwood, live just around the corner from several of my projects. And as a developer who lives in Spring Hill area and whom develops projects in this area, I believe that making the Village of Spring Hill Code an important progressive step to ensure that our community develops the right way and to foster the walkability and connectivity that we've been witnessing change over time with these sidewalks. So what attracted me to making these investments in the Village of Spring Hill was this code and the enablers that the code provides to create more density and bring the buildings to the street front, which previously didn't exist. And it's important that these ordinances become mandatory because it will protect and ensure that my investment holds its value and ultimately raises that value. And I think outside of what I'm doing specifically with Spring Hill Village Shopping Center, Spring Hill Oaks condominiums was another one of our projects. In Chinaberry, we're going to begin redeveloping here soon. But outside of what we're specifically doing, I think the community at large can witness firsthand what the Village of Spring Hill has done with all of the many improvements that we get the benefit of. Specifically the sidewalks. Up until a couple of years ago, I could not take my 4-year-old down McGregor Avenue. And now I can safely walk from my home to Old Shell and McGregor and go get an ice cream cone or whatever. So I think this overall, the ordinance and making it mandatory is an important and critical step in the right direction to ensure that we continue on this trajectory. I hope I'm being heard. Apologize for the technical difficulty, and I'll leave it with you.
Thank you, sir, for your comments. We heard you, and even though you probably won't be there, thank you too later. Who's next, Margaret?
Mr. Chairman, I've admitted Ms. Linda Gates into the meeting. Ms. Gates, can you hear us?
I can.
Okay, you have the floor, ma'am.
I'm Linda Gates, 4154 Ursuline Drive, and my family owns both residential and commercial property in Spring Hill. And what I want to do is tell you a little bit about my family's involvement with what has developed into the Spring Hill overlay. On October 18th in 2005, a very small group of people met at the Botanical Gardens, and my husband and I went to that meeting. We talked about how to improve Spring Hill. We talked about trees. We talked about beautification. Then someone asked who wants to lead the group, and nobody answered. Nobody jumped up. But finally, Linda St. John said that she would do it. The goals of the group have changed over time to include legislative action, and the Village of Spring Hill Incorporated was formed. The governing board of the group did not have any commercial properties owners on it then, and nor has it since. Thus, we were not very involved until Victor Dover came to town and assured us that the plan they were developing for their employer, the Village of Spring Hill Incorporated, would not require property owners to do anything that they did not want to do with their property. The people representing the Village of Spring Hill Incorporated decided the ordinances developed should be mandatory. Before the Dover Co. group left town, they decided trying to make the plan they had developed for the Village of Spring Hill Incorporated would not be accepted if it were mandatory, and advised the Village of Spring Hill that it should be optional. In fact, I had a conversation with Mr. Victor Dover, and he told me there was no reason to make the plan mandatory, that it was a plan that once put into action would be the plan developers wanted to use. Thus, it was fine for it to be optional. That's what was agreed upon by all the parties involved. That is what was officially adopted by the city, and it was incorporated into the city zoning code. I sent the Planning Commission copies that were given to us by the city of the official documents that put it into the zoning code. One was the resolution of the city council that states it's intended to be optional. Another is an amendment to the chapter 64 that says the council is of the opinion that the creation of an optional overlay zone for traditional walkable village and neighborhood centers is necessary to implement the blueprint for Spring Hill. These documents were developed when the commercial property owners at that time in Spring Hill agreed to accept the blueprint for Spring Hill. The city gave its word to those property owners that these commitments would be honored. And some of you were around then. Those property owners would be here speaking today, but they are at work in the buildings on the properties that we're talking about. At the public hearing on February 25th, I mentioned that the map for Mobile, the blueprint for Spring Hill, and Smart Growth Mobile were all adopted with the type of code currently proposed in the Spring Hill overlay as optional. And I'm again going to quote from the map for Mobile document on page 70. It says, while form-based codes work especially well in areas that are being newly developed, hybrid codes tend to be more effective in places largely already developed. Spring Hill is largely already developed, and the proposed overlay for Spring Hill is form-based code. If this body sends this ordinance to the City Council with a recommendation that the overlay for Spring Hill to become mandatory is not honoring the commitments that were made to those property owners, nor is it following the path set to guide the city in the map for Mobile. In addition, I have learned through this current process that there's a large group of people represented by the Sandtown Community Action Group that have been completely left out of this discussion until recently. So how can something that affects so many people be adopted as mandatory when one large group has not even been included in the conversation? And then those are my kind of prepared remarks, but I want to say that I want to say that my son built a building that did not follow the Village of Spring Hill regulations. He decided it was impossible for him to build the building he wanted to build under those, and he used the city code, the existing city code. And then there's been one other building built that did use it. It's the blue building on McGregor. So those are the two new buildings that have been built in Spring Hill since we've been going through this. So I ask you to consider more than the wishes of Ms. St. John and the Village of Spring Hill, and to think about the wishes of the citizens who want this to remain optional. Keep the regulations in Spring Hill optional. And if it is a really great plan, people will do it. That's what Mr. Dover Cole said. So thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else, Margaret?
Yes, sir. I'm admitting David Rogers into the meeting. David, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. You have the floor.
Good. Thank you so much, and appreciate your time, and certainly will be brief in my comments, and appreciate all the commission here and what we're doing. But for those that don't know, I'm David Rogers. I live at 15 Sims Avenue, Mobile, Alabama, 36600. I'm also here representing the Mobile Area Chamber of Commerce. The Mobile Area Chamber, we have roughly 2,000 member business companies within our region. Our organization is proud to be the leading voice of business in the Mobile community. And first and foremost, we would like to thank the City of Mobile staff for their countless hours of due diligence on the new Unified Development Code effort for the City of Mobile. This effort will not only make it easier for existing businesses to operate in the City of Mobile, but it'll allow for further economic development that'll be supported by the entire community. This new modern zoning code will keep the City of Mobile competitive both regionally and nationally. And we're proud to support this initiative of the creation of the Unified Development Code. Mobile Area Chamber of Commerce has had a long position to preserve jobs and economic growth through the removal of barriers that can derail infrastructure projects and the reduction of overly burdensome regulations that create uncertainty and have potential to stifle growth. Our leadership has been engaged from the beginning in this process, including meeting with the city officials and providing comments to the draft ordinances as they progressed. We also have worked to keep our membership informed of each new version of the draft ordinance. We support the new provisions in the UDC 5 that provide a time limitation on how long temporary tanks can be utilized. We also support the requirement that the temporary tanks must be on their place within an area, providing secondary containment, such as a dike area. However, we have heard some concerns concerning temporary tanks and required setbacks. Temporary storage tanks are often used at industrial sites and terminals to assist in clean out and maintenance of existing industrial operations. Above ground storage tanks are broadly defined as tanks holding any kind of liquid, including water, that is used in testing and cleaning. The required 1,000-foot setback, as currently drafted, could prohibit placement of any temporary tanks within the dike safety areas of most existing operations on industrial sites. In raising these concerns, our hope is that the Planning Commission can provide clarity for future operations for our many existing industrial operators in our region. Again, we appreciate the City of Mobile staff and all of their hard work to improve our community with Unified Development Code efforts, and our organization is always here ready to assist. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Margaret, who's next?
I'm admitting Chad Pilcher into the meeting. Mr. Pilcher, can you hear us?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you've now been admitted into the meeting.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Chad Pilcher, representing Alabama Power Company. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today, and I want to talk specifically about Section 64-4-10 related to telecommunications facilities. Alabama Power and its affiliates use wireless devices to provide electricity service to the citizens of Mobile. In addition, Alabama Power is involved in a number of other activities using public safety cameras, lighting that use wireless devices, but that are not small cells. Because of that, we proposed exemption language that would seek to ensure that these items or these facilities and attachments are not inadvertently captured by this ordinance. This exemption language was similar to the exemption language included in the statewide small cell legislation, as well as in municipal ordinances in over 24 cities in the state. The language that's currently included is a step in the right direction, but we don't feel that it goes far enough in order to ensure that these types of activities are not inadvertently captured. So we wanted to state that for the record. However, I would note that I've had very productive discussions with Mr. Rossler over the past 24 hours, which I appreciate him taking the time to speak with me. I actually sent language to him earlier today, but we just ran out of time with this meeting being scheduled for the time that it was. So wanted to note that we still think that language does need some improvement, but Mr. Rossler has agreed to continue those discussions, and we appreciate him for doing that and look forward to continuing in that dialogue.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Margaret, who do we have next?
Jeff Quinnelly. He's being admitted into the meeting. He's connecting to audio. Mr. Quinnelly, do you have audio? Okay, we cannot hear you. Mr. Quinnelly, we cannot hear you.
Muted.
No, no. Mr. Chairman, while he's working on his technical issues, I'm going to go ahead and admit the next speaker.
Okay.
Mr. Pickering, can you hear us?
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can. Mr. Chairman, I've admitted Tim Pickering into the meeting. Mr. Pickering, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much. I'm Tim Pickering. I'm in-house counsel for AT&T Alabama. AT&T really appreciates the great work that this commission has done in drafting the revamped Unified Development Code. We do have concerns about potential amendments to the telecommunications section that's 64-4-10. It sounds like there are additional discussions going on about some sort of potential exemption language for an entity that or other entities that provide the same sorts of services that AT&T provides. Similar to what I said in the letter we submitted on February 19th, we want to continue to participate in any discussions on amendments about that and just be sure that whatever it is that the city does in this area complies with federal law. And that's to make sure that all providers are treated fairly and equally. And that's all AT&T has today. Thank you very much. Be sure that whatever it is that the city does in this area complies.
Debbie, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you, Margaret.
Thank you, ma'am.
That's all AT&T has today. Thank you.
I have your live stream on. Can you cease that?
Yeah, if I can figure out how to get to it here. Yeah, I got it.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Mr. Chairman, I've admitted Ms. Debbie Foster into the meeting. Ms. Foster, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. I am Debbie Foster. I'm Executive Director of Dog River Clearwater Revival, 4507 Park Road, Mobile. Regretfully, Dog River Clearwater Revival must remain opposed to the passage of the UDC until substantial changes are made to design and building standards to reduce stormwater and one of its major contents, litter. DRCR acknowledges the inclusion of the changes we requested and understand we did not include these particular issues, as it was our understanding at the conclusion of the last hearing there would be additional dialogue with the Mobile staff. There was not. If Mobile is indeed serious about reducing litter and improving water quality, then the following concerns must be addressed. Inclusion of trash receptacles in parking configuration and design, and eliminating the waiver of current codes in adaptive reuse. Let me tell you a little bit about Dog River's history with the city of Mobile and litter. We were founded in 1994 under the mission to improve water quality of Dog River and its tributaries. The focus at that time was sewage overflows and litter. In 2004, DRCR began investigating the use of litter capture devices. It took 10 years, the filing of an intent to sue and entering into a memorandum of understanding with the city of Mobile, and DRCR investing over $100,000 to get the first litter trap installed in the Slava Creek. That was in 2015. 2 years later, we received a large EPA Gulf of Mexico program grant, allowing us, again, with the help of the city, to install 6 additional litter traps located throughout the watershed. Last year, those traps helped remove over 101,000 pounds of litter from within the Dog River watershed. Today, we are splitting the cost with the city of Mobile to continue those traps through January of 2022. Experience has shown us that not all litter is intentional, but it is always a matter of convenience. A 2009 nationwide Keep America Beautiful litter study revealed 2 consistent findings. The availability of trash receptacles, that being the number and the convenience of the receptacles, and the amount of litter already present on a site strongly influence the probability that a person would litter. As an example, which I hope you have before you, it was sent yesterday, it's a picture I took of a standard Mobile retail parking lot, which could be replicated all over town. This one just happens to be on the backside of Bel Air Mall, which is surrounded, by the way, by a Slava Creek. While the mall management does report that the parking lot is swept daily, you can see the spans of asphalt is covered with litter and debris. Not one trash receptacle is in sight. Our question to you is if design standards can indeed dictate how many parking spaces, of what material is used, at what angle they go, and thank you very much, we now are requiring trees be put in so far, then why can we not also dictate the space allowable for a proper trash receptacle? We have been told repeatedly by the city that the litter ordinance handles this. I encourage you to look around. Does it? Will we not ever reduce trash if we don't start giving people a proper way to dispose of it? We must start by creating space for maintained receptacles during the design process. Another key objection ties to this, and that is the proposed waiving of any compliance with landscape and parking requirements being used as an incentive for adaptive reuse. Again, if Mobile is serious about getting its arms around the litter problem and stormwater issues, we must begin somewhere. A February Facebook poll that was conducted at the south end of Dolphin Island Parkway in the Peninsula community on a community page produced the following. When asked if they believed that owners of large parking lots should be responsible for providing and maintaining trash receptacles, all 48 respondents said yes. When asked if vacant structures built before 1980 should be made to abide by current building and landscape standards before reopening, all but one said yes. We are an old city. We've annexed our way west, inheriting many problems and many, many acres of asphalt. If the Dog River watershed, which is 95 square miles and encompasses all 7 council districts, is ever going to reverse course, we must start somewhere in making these aged structures and properties begin to correct the problems of the ill. We are ills of the past. We know it could be burdensome on some to require all compliance, but the removal of enough asphalt to create just one tree well that would deter stormwater and perhaps trap a little litter is not that difficult and not that expensive. And it also helps to start educating and reversing those effects of past mistakes. In closing, Dog River Watershed or Dog River Clearwater Revival continues to support the efforts of the administration in this update to our city's land use codes, and we look forward to continuing to work with you to resolve these concerns and to delivering to the administration a comprehensive trash reduction strategy for the Dog River watershed, which we will have ready at the conclusion of our EPA grant later this summer. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for your comments. Any comments, questions by commissioners? Margaret, do we have anyone else?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm admitting Mr. Quinnelly again. Mr. Quinnelly, can you hear us?
Yes, can you guys hear me now?
Yes, sir, we can. You have the floor. You have 5 minutes.
Sorry about all that. I'm Jeff Quinnelly. I live at 3751 Shipes Lane. I'm definitely in favor of making the Village of Spring Hill Code mandatory. I believe the stuff that the village has done is they did a great job for our community. And I mean, everything they've done looks great, so I'm all for it. And I've been working with the Village of Spring Hill for 6 to 8 years now. They've been great to work with. I also chose to build my office about 3.5 years ago by the new code, kind of taking a gamble, but I found a lot of benefit from doing so. Do you guys have the rendering of McGregor Springs? Is that something?
No, sir. The commission only has copies of what was uploaded into the portal.
Okay. At any rate, well, so far we've invested over $3 million in commercial real estate in Spring Hill. I own the corner of Spring Hill Avenue and Shipes, and we just bought the rest of McGregor as it turns into Spring Hill Avenue. We also own the family pharmacy. We plan on, in the new McGregor Springs shopping center, we plan on spending $5 million or more and investing in that shopping center to hopefully get that going pretty soon. Because one of the problems with it not being mandatory, the code not being mandatory, we felt compelled to have to buy a property just to that joins Spring Hill and North McGregor there to make sure that we protected our investment, because if we would have done what we've done now as kind of gambled to do so, and they were to put a gas station or something else, you know, that wasn't very nice, and a number of things that they could have put there under the regular coding, that would have definitely hurt our investment here. So we ended up buying that. I mean, had it been mandatory, we probably wouldn't even weigh that option, but we thought it was in our best interest to protect our investment. I wanted to say basically that, you know, I lived in Spring Hill and I want what's best for our community. And I certainly believe that this mandatory code is the best thing for me as a developer and a resident. And I think it'll be the best thing for everybody here. And everybody can see all the hard work that Linda St. John and the Village of Spring Hill has done for our community. And I can only imagine that this and the rest of the things they do would make it a better place to be. So I'm certainly in support of it.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Anyone else to speak, Margaret?
That's the last of our speakers, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Having heard all our speakers, is there anything else, Margaret? Or any questions or comments from commissioners?
I have a question and just some comments if now's the appropriate time. Once we entertain a motion and move forward with the adoption of the UDC version 5, it'll go to the city council after this. And at that point in time, does the city council have the option to make any adjustments, or is it just as presented from the planning commission?
Make any amendments?
The document that the commission votes on today will be forwarded to the council in that format. Once the council has it, they can, of course, make any amendments they deem appropriate.
Okay, great. Then that's great.
If I could add, as far as the council's actions, it's my understanding there's a assigned committee. I happen to be chair because I sat on this committee. And so we have subcommittees. It's an ad hoc one. It's not a standing one, but that committee will meet and look at all of the recommendations. And at that time, if changes or additions or whatever, then that would be the time to do that. Still more dialogue, in other words. I think that's what you're looking for. And I anticipate that would be the case. It was one of the reasons I've been debating on if I should even vote and on this that you're sending. And I think it's wise for my office. Well, my office is, of course, the district, but when I'm here, I'm speaking for all council people, especially when they contact me on issues before the planning commission, and then when it moves up to council. So I will be abstaining at this point for this particular, because it's so massive, and I really can't speak for them at this point until they collect and take this information, which, they know has been ongoing for a number of years. In the community and also with the staff and all of you and past commissioners as well that have, moved this forward.
Right. So Margaret, this process has been going on now for 4 years?
About, yeah.
Had dozens of community meetings, hours and hours and hours put into this by the staff.
Yes.
And what we're recommending here is the culmination of all of that input coming together. I mean, obviously it's probably not perfect. I don't think any of the staff thinks that it's perfect, but it's definitely a big step in the right direction for our city. But whether, from what Shala's done and Margaret and Bert and the whole staff, I mean, y'all put dozens and dozens of hours into this. So I am completely comfortable with all the review that we've done as a commission, presenting it, recommending it as is to be adopted and be approved, so it can be going up to the city council for the final approval and adjustments as needed.
Okay.
Before we move into any further discussion, there are a couple additional amendments that we want to present based on the community's input. And before I go into that, Don, you said dozens and dozens, it's thousands and thousands of hours that Shayla and Bert and what's your name, Margaret and Jim Rossler have put into this. It's incredible the amount of time, full-time job over the last several years, in addition to doing their regular job. So my hat's off to them. First one we want to bring up is what David Rogers from the chamber mentioned, and it had to do with the temporary storage tanks. 64,411, and what you have here is what we want to suggest that be included for your consideration. This is mainly to take care of properties like a convenience store, gas station, or any commercial facility that has an underground pipe that has to be repaired, cleaned out. They use these temporary pipes to store their fuel while their underground pipe is being cleaned out, repaired. So for those situations, like if you have a convenience store, gas station, they're going to be near a neighborhood, but they have to have that temporary tank to be able to carry on their environmental remediation. So that 1,500 foot buffer applies except for those situations where it's required for remediation. And then secondly, there's another one in this section about the definition. The original definition, instead of having oil, gas, and other petroleum product, it just said liquids, and liquids could be water. So to make it more specific and usable, then we changed the language or the definition here to oil, gas, and other petroleum products in place of liquid. So we would ask that y'all include that language when you vote. And I think there's one other, is there any other additions? What the, okay, the power company languages, okay, we're good. That's it.
We just have the two amendments is what we're calling them to the UDC version 5 that we're making as part of the actual UDC.
That is our suggestion. Shirley, do you have a question?
I did. My question is, I mean, in that description, you had temporary, but what do we describe as temporary? 90 days, 160 days? I mean,
6 months is in the definition section, I believe it says 6 months is where it's located.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So with that, Mr. Chairman, y'all may start discussion on adopting this if you wish.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions or comments concerning this as version 5 with amendment as presented?
I have a question. I just wanted to confirm, we had a lot of speakers on the Spring Hill Village overlay. The UDC as presented before us requires that the UDC adopts the Spring Hill Village overlay as mandatory. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, is there a motion to for approval to send to City Council?
Move to approve the UDC version 5 with the 2 amendments regarding 64-4-11 for the temporary structures, making the change there, and also adding the definition amendment of 64-8-2 is my motion.
Second.
Properly moved, seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor of adoption?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you, and we'll show that.
Was there any
Ms.
opposed?
Abstained.
Here. Abstain.
Yeah.
Rest.
One abstain. Were there any opposed? I didn't hear. It was garbled up.
There were no opposed, 1 abstention. Okay, thank you. Item passes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if I could, I'd just like to thank the commission. As much as this group has spent a great deal of time working on this product, we could not have done it without you all's leadership, you all's guidance, and you all's direction. So we appreciate your active engagement and involvement throughout this process over the last 4 years. So appreciate that. Just want to extend that on our behalf.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
We know
Thank
who
you
did
guys
the
for
hard
your
work.
Thank you. Thank you for all your hard work. Is there any other business to come before us?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. And I thank the commissioners for their time and their hard work on this as well, and their patience. No other business, meeting adjourned.
Thanks.